Hello, my name is Sean Everhard with GoingLowBook.com. I'm out here today in my backyard. This is actually a soccer field, not a golf course. And I'm going to be demonstrating why it is not always best to take a full swing when you're inside 100 yards with a higher lofted club as opposed to taking a lower lofted club, hitting it lower with more spin ratio on the ball. I'm going to cut in and out of some slow motion videos. There's going to be some still shots at the end. I'm working with a Flight Scope Mevo launch monitor here. I'm going to show you that although the ball will go lower with more club, the spin rate will be higher and the trajectory will be lower, which means the lower the ball flight on a wedge shot, the less time there is for the ball to waver offline, so your miss hits will be a lot more. The biggest misconception on this shot here is that the higher you hit it, the more it will spin. Well, that's not the case, because the higher the ball goes in the air, when it lands, it's a trampoline effect. So you really want to keep it low and spinning with a penetrating trajectory. I'm going to be hitting an 80-yard shot here. Now, for me personally, about a max 60-degree wedge is a full 80-yard swing, okay? And I'm going to have this ball position kind of like I would any other shot. So it's going to be a narrower stance for a wedge, and the ball is going to be just inside the left heel, and I'm going to be taking a full swing at it. And the ball should go about 80 yards. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 55-degree wedge, I'm going to narrow the stance, play it back, forward press, and use more of a shoulder arm, kind of like a knockdown spinner. And I'm going to slow motion both of these swings so you can see the difference. And then I'm going to cut the still shot lectures, which I've done in my previous videos, so you can really see what I'm talking about here, why it is not always better to just hit the ball high, and that it's sometimes better to just hit it low with more spin, more penetrating trajectory. Because when you're lower spinning, you'll get that one nice hop and stop. If you're high, you'll come in, you'll bounce. Plus, you're also swinging harder with the 60 than a 54. So there's way more mistakes that can happen. So I'm going to cut to a slow motion video of a full swing with me, with my 60 degree, with the ball position in a normal stance, so you can see my full swing with the 60 that goes about 80 yards. And then I'm also going to slow-mo swing the different setup that I'm talking about, the proper setup which you want to take, which doesn't have to be 80 yards. It could be 50, 60, 70, anywhere in that wedge range that is kind of like on the teetering of a full wedge to a half wedge. So first I will do the slow-mo swing of my full 60, and then followed will be the slow-mo swing of the technique that I'm trying to teach you here, which is taking less lofted club, back in the stance, arms and shoulder technique, high spinning, low trajectory shot. just saw those two shots in slow motion, I'm not going to lie. That first 60-degree wedge I hit was a little bit of a miss hit. You can tell on my hip rotation of that, it was kind of off, but yeah, it went pretty close to 80 yards. And then you can hopefully see the difference in the setup, the abbreviated swing of taking less club. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my launch monitor Mevo. I'm going to hook the app up, take some data, and then I'm going to cut out to a lecture and show you the different spin rates, the different trajectories, the different launches, and to why the setup with the lower lofted club, kind of like this, with that movement, is a lot more effective than taking your highest lofted club and swinging full on. So now I'm going to cut to the still frames and go on a little lecture here, okay? Okay, so here's my Mevo launch monitor after those two slow motion swings that I just showed you. You can see I hit the first 5 shots with that full swing lob wedge. And I'm not going to lie, that probably wasn't my best full swing lob wedge. After looking at it, I was a little out of position. Posture was a little messed up. You got to remember, I'm on a soccer field there. It just rained today pretty hard for about a half hour. Not really the greatest type of lie for a full swing lob wedge. But anyway, my goal was to hit the ball 80 yards with both these clubs. And you can see I only did 4 with the sand wedge right there. So in the right column there after the club where it says LW, SW, that is the carry yards right there. So you can see shot 1 with the lob wedge, 47.3. Not too good for trying to carry at 80. The next one, 71.8. Not really that good. The next one, almost 100. I bladed it. The next one after that, still a little heavy, 66. And then finally on the 5th shot, I got it pretty right. I mean, if I was hitting into a green right there, that might release a couple yards. That was a pretty good shot. But now if I scroll over right there on that same shot that went 75 yards, if you look at the spin RPM from the top, okay, this is shot number 5 here that went 75 yards. The spin rate is going at 68.86, and the height of it is 89 feet in the air. So we're just going to use that as an example because that was my best shot. So it's almost 90 feet in the air, only spinning at 6,500, and carried pretty close to what I wanted to carry. And that was with taking a full swing. It took me 5 swings to finally get it. Obviously not the best conditions on a wet soccer field, but I'm just doing what I can. Now, if you look at the last 4 swings with that second slow motion video that I played you with the ball in the back of the stance, narrow stance, more swinging with the shoulders, arms, little wrist hinge, and an abbreviated backswing. Look at the carry yards on this, 73, 80, 86, 71. You can see there's a way better dispersion on the yardage. I go from 73 to 86, which is 13 yards. If you look at the lob wedge that I was hitting, I go from 47 to 73, which is almost 30 yards. So that's almost half. And also what's good to note, look at the lob wedge, the swing mile an hour, 71, 75, 70, all in the 70s. And look at the sand wedge, way down there, all in the 50s, pretty consistent. And what that's going to do is allow you to hit more consistent shots because you're swinging slower, okay? Now, if you look at the ball speed throughout all of them, they're all pretty much the same. So really the setup, the forward press, the less lofted club is giving you almost the same ball speed. Now, smash factor doesn't really matter too much on a shot like this, so we're going to skip that out. But we took my best shot, that shot number 5 with the lob wedge, and we looked at the numbers. Let's take my best shot with the sand wedge, which was right on 80 yards, 80.9 yards, okay? And then compare it to shot number 5, which is 2 above. So it's 1 white, 1 gray, and then another white. So if you look at the ball speed, they're about the same. Club mile an hour with the sand wedge played back is 8 miles an hour less, which is going to cause you to have more accuracy because you're swinging it at less speed. Now, the real thing I want you to pay attention to is the spin rate. Look at the sand wedge. This is a common misconception with most golfers. I would say 90% of golfers. They think the higher you hit it, the more spin it's going to have. If you look at this sand wedge that I carried 80 yards, it's spinning at 9,344 RPM a minute. That lob wedge was spinning at 6,586 RPM a minute. That means that the sand wedge is actually going to stop more, despite what I'm going to show you next is the height of it. The height of the lob wedge was 90 feet in the air. The height of the sand wedge I hit was 62 feet in the air. That's almost 30 feet less shorter. So what this also means is that the ball is in the air less time, which also means that it has less time to waver offline in case you mishit it. And what it also means with that higher spin rate, almost 3,000 RPMs more, the ball is actually going to stop quicker even though the height is lower and the launch is lower. If you look at the launch, 34 compared to 45. Really all you're doing when you're trying to hit a full lofted club into the green from 80 yards is all you're doing is you're adding to the height of the ball. And if you think about it, the more height you have, the more force it's going to have coming down, which is going to create a trampoline-like effect. Unless you're playing on like absolutely perfect bent grass greens that are of perfect firmness to softness, yeah, then they'll stop. But I mean, really all you got to do here in this video is look at the carry yards, okay, in the lob wedge, in this row right here. Look at how varied that is. Granted, I'm not on a golf course. I'm on a soccer field. But then if you look at shots 6 through 9, look at the carry yards. Same exact soccer field, same exact position, just different technique. Now, I want you to rewind and look at the setup technique compared to the other ones. Essentially, with the lob wedge, I was just taking a full swing with the lob wedge, and with the sand wedge, I had that modified setup with the shoulder return and everything else. And the other thing I want you to look at is spin. Okay, spinning, yeah, that was 10,000 almost on that first one. That's because I hit it so heavy. But look, 6. I apologize about that brief cutoff there on that lecture with the launch monitor. Before I end this video, I just wanted to show you the different setups again and the swings in slow motion that I showed you a little earlier. So this was the full 6E. You can notice the wider stance, the ball just a little bit forward of center, but watch in slow motion the full swing and how this is going to create a higher shot, less consistency, and less spin as well. So you can watch here, full swing, not a good swing. I don't know what I was doing with my knees right there, but when you're going at it full 100%, some stuff like that can happen on it like that. And now here is the proper setup and technique that I want you to use on your wedges. So instead of taking that full lob wedge and having all that knee bending stuff that I had trying to hit a full 100% shot, if you set up with that narrow stance, ball in the back, hands a little forward press, notice how there's less wrist action, how I'm more hitting it with the shoulders and arms, and how I'm compressing down into the ground, taking a nice divot with a low trajectory shot. See that? Right down into the ground, arms straight, a lot more consistent. I hope you enjoyed this video and this lecture, especially with the launch monitor. I think it's kind of a unique video. I know it is a little lengthy, but I personally like it myself. All right, you all have a good day and go